everyone, it's Nicole, and this is Beyond the Book Festival's Author Spotlight. This is where we get to know the authors a little bit before they come into the book festival. The Beyond the Book Festival is a one-day event, and it's being held at the Stark County Public Library, and it's from 9 to 3 on September 30th, 2023, and that is Central Time. Today, we are talking to A.F. Whitehouse. She is a mystery writer. She is the author of the Dana Demeter Series, Signs of Murder and Signs of the Father. She's also a member of the Sisters in Crime Chicago chapter. She's also a member of the Off Campers Writers Workshop and the Chicago Writers Association and the Wisconsin Writers Association. Welcome, Addie. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That is a long list of stuff that you do. How do you find time to do all that stuff?
I'm old. I've been around a long time.
Aw, but that's awesome though. So do those groups end up they're kind of like how the Horror Writers Association does stuff, like they help authors and give them events to go to and how to
Exactly.
publish your work and stuff
Right.
like that?
Yeah, it's membership organizations that help support writers in their both in their writing and in doing things like this and just getting together and having speakers and continuing learning our craft and all those kinds of things. And they're all great groups. They all have different focuses, but yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that stuff is out there. And the more research I do on you guys, as far as, your backgrounds and stuff like that, I'm learning more and more about organizations. So if people are wanting to write or learning how to publish their stuff or anything like that, then they can go to actual organ or websites out there that will give them ideas and stuff. So that's kind of neat. It's really awesome that stuff's out there. I'm going to forewarn you, like I forewarned a couple of authors, you're going to hear me say fantastic and awesome, and that's amazing. You're going to I say this all the time. I don't know. But anyways, could be worse words, could be negative words, but anyways. Also, a little bit about you is that you graduated from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, with a master's degree. What did you get your master's degree in?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I did my interpreter training program at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, which was awesome. And that they allowed us, I already had my bachelor's degree in English from Hope College in Holland, Michigan, but they allowed me to apply the credits I got in the interpreter training program to a master's degree. So then I had to continue and take other courses, of course, and write a master's thesis, which I did. I wrote it on alcoholism and deafness, a double disability. That was my research paper. I did some original research on that, and I really enjoyed it. So that allowed me to get a master's in science. They put that degree in the science department, although it's not really an education degree. But they weren't quite sure where to put it, so they stuck it in the education department, Master's of Science in Education. Oh, yeah. Even though I'm not really a teacher. No.
And that's, my son, I was actually talking to him this weekend because he's enrolled in college, and he just dropped a class and then he enrolled in something else. And I was looking at it and I thought to myself, I didn't realize that they have these kind of college classes for credits, like how to be a DJ. I was like, that's what I said. I'm like, what?
Wow.
It's some kind of, I guess, liberal arts or something.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was kind of neat. And I'm so used to algebra or, psychology or something like that. So to hear, or even just art or anything like that. So to hear that there's an unusual classes that kids can express themselves in, I just thought, well, that's different. It's been a long time since I've been in college, but
yeah, me too. And it's nice that they're making it more, not accessible necessarily, but more interest to kids and what they want to do, which is good.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely I whenever he tells me each semester he's enrolled in, I'm just like, that's really interesting. So, but let's get down to the actual questions here.
Okay.
I see that you are a certified sign language interpreter.
Correct.
What made you decide to do that career path?
It was looking back on it, it was kind of serendipitous. I really had no idea what I wanted to do when I got out of college. As I said, I graduated with a BA in English, which, just meant I like to read a lot, basically. Because I
Right.
got to do all 4 years of my college education. But when I got out of school, back when I was in college, students didn't really think so much about what am I going to do with this degree, and I really
Right.
was not thinking about that. I mean, some kids did, obviously, but I
They
didn't.
still do. They still do.
Yeah. I mean, I was a big partier in college too, which didn't help the situation. So anyway, when I got out of school, I was kind of casting around for a job, and I got a job as a secretary at a place called the Chicago Hearing Society, which was an agency that provided services to deaf and hard of hearing people in Chicago. And at the time, there really was not a profession of sign language interpreting at that time. It was just sort of a new thing. And anyway, I had no interactions with deaf people, knew nothing about deafness, but thought, why not? And they hired me. And so my boss encouraged me to take some sign language classes, which they had there at CHS. And I did, and I really liked it a lot. And so I just kept taking their classes and taking their classes and kind of got kind of good at it. And then the federal government started funding these different programs for sign language interpreters to increase the number in the United States, because there was an obvious need for it, and the laws started to change about places needing to provide interpreters and that kind of thing. So I did go to interpreter training at University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. They were one of the places. There were 10 programs in the United States that got money for this, and UWM was one of them. And I was very fortunate to get into the program and finished it, of course, and then later became certified through Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. So.
That is really neat. That is really,
Mhm.
really neat. Um, can you give us any, like, can you sign some? I'm not a sign language person, but can you sign something for everybody?
Let me put my screen down a little bit there so you can see my hands a little bit better. I don't know. What do you want me to sign?
That's amazing. That's awesome. Very, very cool. I know
I'm
sometimes
making
you
a
see that. There you go. I
stand.
know sometimes you see like a sign language interpreter when like the president's speaking or something. So it's kind of neat that
Yeah,
you actually do that and that you're fluent, I guess, so to speak, in it.
yes, I am. Yes.
Um, that is really, really cool. I see that you started a task force to persuade the Illinois legislature to help
Mhm,
provide funding for inpatient substance abuse for the
mhm,
hard of hearing and deaf.
mhm.
Can what compelled you to reach out to these people?
Well, this is a little bit part of my story. And Nicole, you and I didn't really talk about this prior to our interview, but I'll tell my story. What the heck?
Right ahead.
Um, I am a recovering alcoholic, and I
Okay.
got sober in 1981. And after I finished college, well, let me back up a little bit. Um, the way I got sober, or the way I heard about how to get sober, was that I was interpreting for a deaf person who was in substance abuse treatment.
Oh,
So I kept getting the call to go and interpret for this deaf person. And I kept going. And then I would drive home. And on my way home, I would pick up more booze and drink. And finally, after 30 days of doing that, I kind of heard the message about how to stay sober. And I did. And I'm lucky I did, because I wouldn't be here today, I don't think, if I weren't sober. That's a long story, and that's kind of a boring story. You don't want to hear that. But that's kind of how I got into the idea of it, because this person who was in treatment that I interpreted for eventually died of alcoholism, did not hear the message, did not get the message about how to maintain that sobriety. And I always felt bad about that, in the sense that this person was in a program really sort of focused on hearing people, and the language level in that treatment center was very high. Typically, deaf people, uh, and this is a general statement, I don't mean this is every deaf person, but generally speaking, deaf people don't have the command of the English language that hearing people do, simply because they don't grow up hearing English.
right.
And sign language is often a different syntax than English. So it's difficult to even access written materials in English for deaf people. So anyway, I thought there's got to be a better way to provide substance abuse treatment for deaf people. And I started talking to different deaf people I knew who were in social services, as well as some hearing people I knew who were in social services. And we got a task force together. And it took us quite a while, but were able to get at that time, the Department of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse in Chicago to support our asking the legislature for funding for this program. And we got it. And we did start a program. So that's
amazing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing your story. I know that's difficult for people to do. It really is. And again, when you say that you feel guilty about that person, and I guess please don't read this the wrong way, but yes, that person did not succeed in the program and that person ended up losing their life, but maybe it was their way to help you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you down the path.
Absolutely.
So that's a great, that not losing that person, but that's a great story to say, hey, this person might have lost their life, but it led me to believe that maybe I was going down the wrong path.
That's absolutely accurate. And that's a wonderful reading of it too, Nicole. And I'm not supposed to say it was
no. Yeah.
This person was really then in a sense responsible for actually getting accessible services for deaf people as the time went on, and we were able to get that. So everything happened for a reason, in a sense,
Absolutely.
So
Open your eyes, open more doors, and then because that's fantastic. And for you to be able to, I know a lot of people don't think this way because a lot of people don't run into deaf people.
That's right.
So when they do see someone that can speak sign language, that can communicate with people that are hard of hearing or anything like that, it's an amazing gift to be able to do that. I mean, with me working in the reference department for so many years, there have been people that have requested books and movies and stuff on how to learn sign language. So it's not something this isn't something new to me because we've had actual requests for that. So, and again, you have a gift to be able to do that. And because I said not too many people can. And maybe you should open your own school and just an idea out there.
I'm done with the working, at least that kind of working.
Right. But no, it's really neat. Now, speaking of opening your own business, you actually opened your own interpreter referral business.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the things, I worked intermittently as a freelance interpreter between some of these other jobs that I was doing in different areas with deaf people. In Chicago, we had one interpreter referral service, and then I helped another one get started. I wasn't involved with it, but we felt that one interpreter referral service had kind of a monopoly on the services. So, and there was a lot of complaints about we're not getting good service, blah, blah, blah. So again, a group of us in social services, and it seems to be the same sort of folks that get together to do this because we're interested in starting programs and that kind of thing. So anyway, we got together and started up another referral service in Chicago and sort of gave competition to that first one. And then as I was freelancing, I thought, I could do this myself. And I thought I wanted to. I like the idea of working for myself very much. I liked being a freelance interpreter in that reason, because I didn't have someone hanging over my back as a boss and that kind of thing. So I did. And I did it for 5 years, but it was a 24/7 type of job. And it's pretty stressful, I have to say. I enjoyed it because I enjoy working with interpreters and I really enjoyed working with the deaf population. But it was enough. 5 years, and then I was out of it.
Right. I hear you, because if you don't love your job anymore, then should be time to move on. So
That's right.
We've all been there. So what got you into writing?
Well, interestingly enough, through all of this, I have been a writer all of my life, really. Even if it was just writing stuff down that occurred to me or ideas for books or stories and that kind of thing, or journaling and writing in many different aspects, in different ways, but not publishing anything. And excuse me. when I got sober, I had an idea for a book. And uh, the irony, when I look back on it now, was that I was really too scared to write because I thought if I'm not drunk, I can't write. I always thought being drunk made me more creative, which is really a false idea, but that's what I thought, And so I carried this book around with me in my mind for, let me think now, how many years? Think about 13 years, maybe something like that.
Mhm.
And just was afraid. I was afraid to write. And in that sense, I mean, to really pursue publication. Um, and then I started working for the school system as a sign language interpreter coordinator for a different group of schools there in Northwest suburban Chicago area. And the very first summer, I got the entire summer off, which I didn't even realize when I took the job. In fact, it was kind of funny during the interview. Uh, the boss interviewed me and blah, blah, blah. And we were all finished. And then I said to her, I said, well, you haven't said anything about vacation time. And she looked at me and she said, well, you get the whole summer off. Isn't that enough?
Like,
Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, I really didn't. I thought, oh, I'm working all year round. So anyway, so that first summer, which I was so happy to have, it was like, wow, this is a great job. And
right.
I sat down and I just banged out that first book. I did. It was in.
Awesome.
I thought I don't want to carry this around in my head anymore. I banged it out, and then it took me another 10 years, I would say, of polishing it, rewriting it, revising it, getting it edited, sending it out to agents, hoping I'd get published. And I kept getting rejected, rejected, rejected.
Aw.
So it's like, eh. I stopped thinking about that, and I just kept writing. I kept taking classes. I kept going to workshops. I kept going to conferences and just working on my craft. I thought, don't even worry about publication stuff. And oddly enough, during that period, when I was doing that, the sort of stigma of self-publishing went away, because
Mhm.
Amazon made it so simple to do. And
Right.
so many more people were becoming what they call indie publishing now, instead of
Mhm.
self-publishing. It lost that stigma.
Right, right.
And I thought, I could do this myself. And I did. So when I finally decided to do that, actually, there's a long story with that. I won't bore you with it, but I got sick. I had to stop working. I couldn't work anymore. My husband and I moved to Wisconsin. We both retired and moved to Wisconsin in 2020. And I thought, this is my chance. I'm retired. I have time. I can do this. And so I published the first one. And then I had already written the second one, but then I had to go through revisions and do the editing and all of that stuff too. So I had all that done and get the covers done. And so then I published my first one in 2021, and then the second one was last year. And then I'm working on the third one. I'm hopeful to get that out the end of this year.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So when it comes to self-publishing, a lot of people, and again, oh, there was other, I can't even remember the names of some of the websites and stuff, but so you decided to go to self-publish because you had so many rejections and stuff. Do you still
Mhm.
send your stuff out to actual publishers? You
No,
gave up on that? You just decided to self-publish?
I did. And, that would change. I don't know. But what I really like about the self publishing, well, there are many things I like about the self publishing. One is that I maintain complete control. I have control over the cover, over the, revisions, over all of this, and I mean, I do get my stuff professionally edited and I do follow, what good writers should do in order to publish a book. It's not, I don't just throw some stuff out there and say, oh, here's my book. No, there's a lot involved in self-publishing. But the good news is that uh, when it's all said and done, I feel very proud of my product. I just really, it's just one of the most what's the word? It's the most satisfying thing in terms of not just being able to write a book, which is satisfying in itself. It really
Right.
is.
Right.
To actually see the book, there it is, proof that I can do this. And it's
Oh
got
yeah,
my name on it, it's pretty cool. It really
that is.
is.
That is
Yeah.
cool. We had a lady, the library has been purchasing, all the authors that are coming, we've been purchasing their work.
Oh, good.
So when I see it come in, Like we have one lady that she's really, really local, and to see her actually wrote a children's book. So when I saw it come in, her uh or when I like I'm sorry, when I saw it come in, I was like, look how cute this is. This looks like a professionally published book. And I think she's self-published as well. So it was really neat to see that it's not just some generic cover, or it's,
Right.
they're really, really nice books that have come out, that do come out.
Yeah.
So I know you explained a little bit about Amazon. Can you explain in a little bit more detail how one gets self-published, or how you go about doing that?
Well, as I said, I did it through Amazon. They have a program called KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, I think it
Hmm.
stands for.
Okay.
And it's very self-explanatory. You go on, you have to, set up an account and do all that kind of stuff. And you have to have a link to a bank account so that you can, when your royalties come in, it goes to the bank account. And if I can do it, anybody can do it, because they make it exceedingly simple, and it's very clear in how to, there are steps you take to do it. I have a program on my Mac called Vellum, which I actually put my manuscript into. I type it into that, and then the Vellum program uh, links, if you will, to, or I don't understand the computer stuff really, but it is sent to Amazon, and it's set up in their system, and it's very simple. I can't keep stressing that it is.
I guess my question is it expensive to do it? Like, say, for
Oh,
example, your book is like 300 pages. Do they charge you like a set price, and then what they
no,
sell the
no,
price for, or
no.
it is
You
what it
set,
is?
you set your own price. It's completely free to publish your own book. There is no
Okay.
charge for that.
Well, that's
Um,
awesome.
it
I think
is.
that's how like E.L. James got her start, didn't she? She self-published like the
I don't
50
know.
Shades of Grey. I think that's what happened with
Oh,
her. And then somebody had read it and they decided to publish it. So you
I
never
didn't know
know.
that. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
I think that's
Yeah.
how it went. I'm not 100% sure, but I think.
Okay.
Um, but no, it's nice to have um that world open up to people who at least want to get some of their work out there.
Right.
And that's really, really awesome. Awesome. Do you feel that you are, in your experience, do you feel that you have been more successful in self-publishing than you would have gone with, like, say, for example, a publishing house that isn't so well known?
Oh, that's a good question. I have no idea. I don't know how to judge that, Certainly, what I will say is that the marketing piece of books is a big challenge. It really is. And I think it probably is for even traditionally published authors. I don't know. I mean, I could ask them, but um, I don't have anyone doing publicity for me. I don't have any of that. And that may be the next thing I kind of explore, getting
Mhm.
an actual publicist and finding out other ways to get my book out there, basically, because
Right,
that's what it's about, I mean, the
right.
United States is a huge place, and trying to get your foot in the door somewhere to have people hear about it
Yep.
is difficult. That's why I'm just so pleased to have this opportunity for your interview, because this is a very big help.
No, and hey, that's great. And in doing these interviews, I've actually learned so much more about you guys. I mean, the internet can only tell you so much.
Yeah.
So to actually get down and talk to you, like, I think the one lady I had spoken to, she had said that, she loved death metal. I'm like, I would never have seen you like death metal. So it's kind of neat to, and like with you talking about, your demons from the past, it's nice to see that, because a lot of people, I guess when they think that someone's published or someone's an actor or something like that, it's kind of scary to approach someone like that. So it's
Oh,
nice to see or show that you guys are just normal individuals that are just
normal,
trying. Yeah. Well, as normal as we
whatever
all
that
can
is.
be, I'm far
I'm
from
teasing.
that, but no, 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 no. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We're all a little out there. But anyways.
You have to be a little crazy to be a writer, frankly. I really do.
Well, and yeah, that's one of my questions I always ask people. I'm like, so when you do write something, and it is like something that you would not normally do, would you feel, how would your family or friends or something, like if they read it, they're like, ooh, didn't think that would come out of you, you know?
I thought you meant, do they recognize themselves in my books?
Well, and that too. I mean, but yeah, if you write something that's a little racy, do they
Oh,
has anybody ever come to you and said, hey, didn't
no.
think you would write that,
No. Actually, I don't, I'm not very good at doing those kinds of scenes. That's something I'm trying to practice and figure out how to do, because one of my main characters is divorce. She divorces her husband. I don't want to give too much away. In the
Right,
first
right.
and second book, they're, splitting up basically. But
Okay.
in this third book, she meets somebody. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do that, because I mean,
It's
that's going to
yeah,
happen. And,
right.
so I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be very graphic, or I'm just going to say, and then they went off to the bedroom or,
Yeah,
whatever.
and I've seen that too. I've seen where authors completely bypass that. And I've read, I've read all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it definitely is to the author how they want to interpret their own thing in a sense. I mean, everybody's different on how they like any of that kind of stuff. So, but anyways, let's talk about your books. Your books are mysteries.
Mhm.
And they're a part of a series. It's the Dana,
Yes,
is it Demeter? Am I saying that
it
right?
is.
Demeter.
Demeter. Mhm.
Tell us about your books.
Well, it is a series, and I have two. You can see my ad up here on the
Yeah,
wall.
no, that's great. I know
Uh,
mine, right?
Yeah, right. So the first in the series, Signs of Murder, uh, we learn that the main character is a Chicago homicide cop, and she's a hearing woman, but she's from an all deaf family. So her parents are deaf. She has a twin brother that's deaf, and she has a younger sister who's deaf. And she is suspended for drinking on the job. But in the meantime, a friend of her father's, who's also deaf, is murdered. And the guy that is assigned to that case really bungles it, arrests the wrong person, very obviously, at least to us and the reader, but not to him. And so Dana decides she's going to just work, on the slide to try. Her father implores her to help, solve this murder. And so she says, sure. And so she does go ahead and try to do that. But of course, all kinds of problems ensue. And as I said, she and her husband are on the outs because of her drinking, and she has some other problems too. So there's that typical, a lot of mysteries or cop stories, especially, you'll hear that kind of stuff. But I try to inform my writing with some of my own experiences as an alcoholic, and of course some of my experiences as a person who's worked in the deaf community. And so hopefully it's a story that people will find interesting and a little bit different. So that's the first one. And then the second one is called Signs of the Father. And it's just sort of a continuation of her life and where she is in the next book. And in that book, a church janitor is found dead. And the priest of the church is the head of a church that's a church for deaf people, and or with a deaf congregation, I should say. It's not for deaf people, but it has a deaf congregation. And the priest himself is also a child of deaf adults, so he knows how to sign as well. And he and Dana are longtime friends, and he's friends of Dana's parents, so they all know each other in this little community. And so he asks her if she will look into this death, because the police are just saying, oh no, there's nothing here to be seen. He just died. It's not a big deal. And or not, he just died, but I mean, it's not like it was, a murder or anything like that. But the priest doesn't think so, because some chalices, some very priceless chalices and candlesticks were also stolen from the church at the time that this janitor died. So he thinks those two things are connected. And so Dana says, sure, I'll look into it. But she's kind of thinking, he doesn't know. He's just imagining that or whatever. But she's doing him a favor, and she says she'll do it. So again, her own personal price. She's still on suspension, and she finds out also that she has to lose 40 pounds because she's very overweight in order to get her job back. So she has to stay sober, and she has to lose this weight in order to get her job back as a detective. And so she's working on those things frantically, but of course not doing very well. And
Yeah.
does figure out finally what happened with this death and the theft as well. So
That's awesome. No, it
yeah.
sounds interesting. I'd totally read it. I
Oh,
love
okay.
mysteries. I'm not just horror, guys. I like mysteries too. But um, but no, it does. It sounds really awesome. Now, did you find it difficult? And we don't have much time, so I'm going to try to get these questions
Okay,
out real fast.
sure.
Did you find it difficult to write the sign language part of the books?
I struggled with that back and forth when I was, especially writing the first one. I went back and forth. I was trying to, American Sign Language does not follow the syntax of English. It follows the syntax of French, believe it or not, because our American Sign Language came over from France. So the structure of the language of American Sign Language is really much more akin to the French language than it is to English. And so if you try to just transliterate what the signs are, it sounds like what they call broken English. And I didn't want to give that idea that, oh, well, deaf people, they don't know any English and they're just, and, but it was difficult to do so that it was understandable. So I kind of try to give a little bit of that with the way I write things out when people are signing. I write out when it's in sign language, I put it in italics. So it's clear that the person's signing as opposed to talking.
Mm,
So
okay.
yes, that's a good question. And it was something for me to try to figure out, but I think I did a good job of it.
No, that's great. It just
Yeah.
reminded me when you were talking about that, the show The Walking Dead
Uh-huh.
actually had a deaf person on there where they were signing. And I thought to myself, how is she surviving if she can't hear somebody come up on her? It was neat though. It was neat how they did it. She was a
Uh-huh.
warrior. And I thought,
Uh-huh.
wow, she made it a long time. But going into going into your book, when you decided to write this book, did you have the ending? Like, how did you come about it? I guess, did you have the ending first and then you wrote the story around it, or did you have to come up with the ending? I mean, how does,
Oh,
when you write something or when you wrote your first book, I guess you probably brought it into your second one. What I guess, well, how'd you get started and how did that develop from there?
yeah, it's a good question. My books are very character driven, although there is definitely a plot and all the rest of it because it's a mystery. But I start with the characters and the
Okay.
situation that they're in, and then try to figure out from there if this happened, like if there's a murder or whatever, how would this person solve that? And
Hmm.
then if they're dealing with all this other stuff in their life, how does that affect how they're solving it, et cetera, back and forth. There's sort of that symbiotic relationship between what the character's doing and what's going on in the plot. And I think that makes for a good story. At least those are the kind of stories I like to read, especially character-driven stories. But they have to be really connected to what's going on in the plot. Otherwise, it would seem very sort of disjointed.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that leads me into my final question.
Okay.
If you had any advice for any of our up and coming authors out there, what would you tell them?
I would say, especially if you're looking to self-publish, I would say it is exceedingly simple to do. Don't let fear of that stop you. I have this little thing on my desk. I'll show it to you. It says, never, never give up. And that really is sort of my motto because, if I can do it at my age, and I am 69 years old, believe it or not, I know I can't even believe it myself sometimes.
I never would have thought that, so that's
Oh,
awesome.
you're very nice. Thing. Makeup is a wonderful thing.
I know,
Um,
right? I know.
so I would say just never give up. If you really believe in your story, number one, and number two, that you want to see your name in print and you want to see your story in print, pursue self-publishing. You can certainly go the traditional route and try, but it is a very difficult thing to do. At least I found it so. But don't give up. That's my
Right.
that's my advice.
Well, that's awesome. No, that's fantastic. I know I have a friend who's he's on his third edit right now on his first book, so um he's going to be in that process of looking for a publisher. So I'm hoping I hope he does well, because he's really talented and as are you. So I hope that one day
Thank you.
somebody does discover
Yeah.
your work. Hopefully, like if you keep attending these festivals and stuff, somebody will say, "Hey, did you read this lady?" And just you know again, that's my goal with all of these authors is that to let everybody know that these there are people out there that are super talented that
Oh,
are
nice.
not as known as they should be and
Uh-huh.
that read them, give them a chance, you know, whether you read their stuff online or you check something out from our library or any library or online
Yeah.
library, you know, read, read because, you know, it's
Yeah.
one, it's an escape, you know, and
Yeah.
two, it helps because every, you know, it's so stressful nowadays. That's why I always got a book in my ear, or I've got one. I carry books in my, I carry books.
Yeah.
You know, I just, I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
Because we do need to step outside ourselves, even if it's like 15, 20 minutes a day.
That's
And
right.
read what you love. You know, if
Yeah.
you don't read what you love, you're not going to be interested in reading,
That's
whether it's a
right.
car manual, a magazine, or, you know, a mystery. So,
Right. I
but
agree.
no, it is reading, and a lot of people know they don't like reading it. But like I said, if you read, like my son, my youngest son, does not like to read whatsoever. But if I handed him a Minecraft book, he reads
Oh.
it. You know, stuff that he
Oh.
likes, or you know, Harry Potter or something. Like if I read them in, or if I have audiobooks on in the car, he's like, "Mom, I like this story." I'm like, "Yeah, I
Oh.
know."
Wonderful.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's if I can't get him to pick up a book, I'm gonna give him, you know, something. It keeps him from being on YouTube for, you know, 24/7.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And the way
anyway,
it's delivered doesn't matter. Audio, visual,
yeah,
whatever,
I totally
it just
agree.
is that escape. You're right. I'll tell you, I equate reading with breathing. I mean,
Yep,
I can't even imagine a life without reading. I really
I
can't.
know. I know. I'm the same way, but then again, it's just something that I really truly express to people. I know, like I said, I know a lot of people don't like to do it, but I wouldn't be a librarian today if I didn't love to read.
Oh, yeah,
And so, you know, going to these book festivals and meeting these authors, and I, another there, I can't tell you how many authors I've met that I thought to myself, man, these guys are great people. And then I've actually walked away with $40, $50 of their work. So I go broke loving these people, but I love these people because again, they get me outside of my, you know, they take me to another place
right.
in my mind. So where, you know, as far as stressful days go, I can just say, hey, let me open this book, or, you know, 10, 15 minutes before I go to bed. If I
Yeah.
just can't turn off my mind, then I, you know, I put it somewhere else and it helps. It
You
really
sing
does.
a nice song. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Definitely.
Addie, it has been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank
You
you
too,
so
Nicole.
much for joining us. You guys, if you have not read Addie's work, she is available on Amazon. Addie, did you want to tell them where they can contact you if they have any questions? I believe you have a website.
I do. My website is afwhitehouse.com. Very simple.
Yep. And then I believe you do. Are you on Facebook and Instagram or
I
anything
am
like
on Facebook, but that's all. I used to be
that?
on
Okay.
Twitter. I cut that account out, but I'm on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think it's even Twitter anymore. It's called X or
It's
something.
X. Yeah. In fact, I've got to get that icon off of my website. I haven't done that yet. I need
Yeah,
to
I
do
know, right? It's crazy. It's crazy how that, yeah. But anyways, for everybody else, Beyond the Book Festival is September 30th, 2023. Addie will be there. It
that.
is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That is Central Time. You guys come out, see these discussion panels, see these presentations, talk to these authors, get to know them. Because again, they are all fantastic. And thank you
Uh,
guys again. Thank you, Addie. You have a
Thanks,
wonderful
Nicole.
day. Bye bye.
Can't wait to see you.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.